Fellow San Diegans, there is a chapter in our city's history that many of us have never been taught. We know the national narrative of school segregation, the South's Jim Crow laws, the marches, the landmark rulings. Yet few realize that similar patterns of separation and disinvestment took root right here in America's finest city, shaping the schools and opportunities available to generations of children in Southeast San Diego. This is the story of how housing policies, school boundaries, and institutional practices created and sustained educational inequality, and how those historical forces still manifest in achievement gaps today. It is a story of resilience, of legal victories, and of unfinished work. Over the next 10 minutes, we will examine the evidence, the record, and the path forward. School segregation in California was rarely de jure in the same explicit manner as the South, but it was enforced through powerful de facto mechanisms. Beginning in the 1850s, public schools were constructed primarily for white students. Children of color were frequently excluded or directed elsewhere. By the 1920s, more than 80% of Mexican-American students statewide attended separate Mexican schools, officially justified as language support programs, but designed to maintain racial separation. San Diego County witnessed one of the earliest successful challenges. In the summer of 1930, the all-white Lemon Grove School District Board voted to construct a two-room wooden building, derisively called La Caballeriza, the barnyard, for 75 children of Mexican descent. On January 5, 1931, Principal Jerome Green stood at the main schoolhouse door and turned the children away, directing them to the inferior facility. The parents organized, refused to enroll their children in the segregated school, and filed suit. On March 30, 1931, San Diego County Superior Court Judge Claude Chambers ruled in Roberto Alvarez v. Board of Trustees of the Lemon Grove School District that the segregation violated California law. Because persons of Mexican descent were classified as white under the state education code, the board lacked authority to separate them. This was the first successful school desegregation court decision in U.S. history, more than 2 decades before Brown v. Board of Education. Federal redlining reinforced these divisions. In the 1930s, the Homeowners Loan Corporation color-coded neighborhoods. Southeast San Diego, including areas along Imperial Avenue, was marked hazardous, red, largely because of the presence of Black and Mexican families. Banks denied loans, businesses avoided investment, and property values stagnated. Single-family zoning ordinances from 1923 further locked in residential segregation. The result was concentrated poverty and attendance boundaries that mirrored racial lines. Webster Elementary and other Southeast schools became majority-minority by design. This was not distant history. It was policy enacted in our own city. 2 landmark California cases helped dismantle the legal foundation of segregation nationwide. In 1946-47, Mendez v. Westminster successfully challenged the segregation of Mexican-American students in Orange County schools. The federal district court ruled that such separation violated the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. The decision was upheld on appeal and directly influenced Thurgood Marshall's arguments before the U.S. Supreme Court. In 1954, Brown v. Board of Education declared segregated schools inherently unequal, overturning Plessy v. Ferguson's separate but equal doctrine. Congress followed with the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, withholding federal funds from segregated districts. Yet implementation met resistance. Across the nation, massive resistance, white flight, and freedom of choice plans slowed progress. In California, courts repeatedly found that school districts bore an affirmative obligation to alleviate segregation, regardless of whether it originated from de jure or de facto causes. San Diego Unified faced multiple lawsuits. In 1967, parents led by Carrie Carlin filed a class action suit alleging systemic inequalities. After years of litigation, a 1977 Superior Court ruling identified 23 racially isolated schools and ordered the district to submit a desegregation plan. The court ultimately approved a voluntary integration framework featuring the Voluntary Ethnic Enrollment Program, VEEP, and magnet schools rather than mandatory busing. Additional litigation, including references to the broader California case Crawford v. Board of Education, Los Angeles, underscored the state's constitutional duty. Yet San Diego's response remained limited. White families rarely transferred south. Transfers northward were modest. In 1979, California voters passed Proposition 1, amending the state constitution to prohibit mandatory busing except to remedy intentional segregation, a measure that further constrained remedies. The consequence? Lincoln High School and its feeder schools remained overwhelmingly minority, with resources and teacher experience lagging behind more affluent northern campuses. Located in the Lincoln Park neighborhood of Southeast San Diego, a historically African-American community strengthened by the World War II influx of Black service members to naval bases, Lincoln High School became emblematic of these patterns. By the late 1960s, the school was approximately 80% African-American. Student walkouts in 1968 and 1970 demanded equitable resources and led to the appointment of San Diego's first Black principal. Yet structural challenges endured. Inexperienced teachers were routinely assigned to Lincoln as an entry point before promotion to higher-performing schools elsewhere. Dropout rates exceeded 90% in the early 2000s. The campus required 2 major closures for reconstruction, including a $129 million modernization completed between 2003 and 2007. Today, the legacy remains visible. Lincoln serves approximately 2,100 to 2,700 students, 98% students of color, and 80% economically disadvantaged. Math proficiency hovers in the low double digits for key subgroups. English language learner outcomes lag. While graduation rates have reached the mid-80s% range, many graduates arrive underprepared for post-secondary success because the elementary and middle schools feeding Lincoln have historically received fewer resources. These are not isolated statistics. They are the measurable, ongoing consequences of decades of disinvestment and incomplete integration. The historical record is clear. School segregation in San Diego was real, it was local, and its effects persist in opportunity gaps that affect our neighbors' children. Awareness is the first step. Sustained, equitable investment in every classroom is the necessary next step. Every child in Southeast San Diego deserves the same foundation for success that we seek for all San Diegans. The past cannot be rewritten, but the future remains in our hands.